Welcome to a brand new wave, drowning out the noise that's tame. Liberty whispers through the brave, breaking free from every chain. Nullify the rules they crave, crypto beats that pave the way. Anarchy with minds that's safe, algorithms new dawn to day. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride. Beyond control we take a stand, casting off the iron brand. Freedom flowing through our hands, revolution's our command. Decentralize the way we plan, all together we expand. Breaking shackles for the clan, in this journey we're unplanned. Out of bounds and out of sight, building futures pure and bright. Escape the grip and win the fight. Welcome into the legacy ride.
Welcome in. This is your daily dose of the weekly legacy. And we're back again. Let's dive into Law Zero. Peace.
Hey,
Howdy, y'all.
what's going on?
Where am I?
So, we're
You're on a Legacy
live.
Ride podcast.
we're on a lame small podcast about where we talk about how much we're retarded and losers.
Maybe it won't be small after we test this out, but I heard a tip that if you eat food on a live stream, your numbers go up.
What
I don't know
about
if it's true or
coffee?
not. It's not. It does not work with drinks as well, but it does work somewhat with drinks. It's mostly the
Alcohol.
sort of visual show, right? Like sort of like those speed run video game videos where they put a audiobook behind it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not a big I'm not big onto that. I'd rather just listen to the book, but I'm a different person. So welcome in, everybody. So
Hey,
yeah.
yep. Thought I'd start off with
So
that
let-
one just because that burrito is delicious.
hey, who
Don't
doesn't
make
love
me.
the burrito?
I'm about
It's
to
a,
disappear. Andrew, take over.
It is
All
a
right.
bean and cheese, and that is in fact sriracha on top. So,
And then there were two.
Hmm.
Change my mind.
how's
I
it
was
going,
actually
guys?
thinking about walking away.
Good week.
I'm doing fairly well. I don't know if Andrew's always not doing well. He's having
I'm
some
trying.
ideations.
I'm trying, man. Every day's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
just trying to
Well,
prove.
a good
I was-
day is any day above ground, right?
Exactly. That's how you got to think about. That's the only thing that matters. Every day is a gift. So
Yep.
how's your week been, Greg?
It has been, oh, man, it's like, so my week started in Kansas, and by Wednesday, I was in Texas, South Texas, like by the coast. Uh, and during that time, I have been, well, talking to you guys and talking to lots of other fun folks. And we've been getting really excited about DIN, right? Decentralized Infrastructure Network. We're getting ready to. So our partner there on that one is Consensus. And before people balk, right, and say like, why are you teaming up with a big corp to build something allegedly decentralized, right? They sought us out in part because they knew they were going to be able to partner with somebody who is both independent and credibly pro decentralization. So the neatest part about that, though, is while that was why they selected us, the constraints on us or on their selection were we need people who can run this thing for us because we don't have the the ability to call it decentralized at all if we run it ourselves, right?
Right.
So they picked somebody credible, and so now there is a little bit of trust me, bro, in it still because it's still not decentralized. But if you trust Rivet and Cypherpunk Greg and Cypherpunk Austin and Cypherpunk Beth over there, right? Then, or at least if you trust them more than Consensus, then you get some kind of credible neutrality that. I don't know. I suspect that you guys probably known me for long enough now that you believe that that was probably a smart choice on their part. Suggests they're actually serious about doing it the right way.
Right.
Because that's how we feel about it. So, but the cool thing about it is we're getting ready to launch it on mainnet, and what that will mean is that anybody who goes on to like Infura and signs up and selects the box that says use decentralized infrastructure network backend instead, you'll be using Rivet through Infura at times, right? Because you'll be making, I mean, it depends on which network you make calls to, if we support them or not, but you would be routing your calls through the network, even using an Infura endpoint. So eventually they're not going to run backend at all once this thing is up and running. So super cool.
Well, you got yourself on the card, and then you work your way up it, right? So,
Yep.
no.
So, but yeah, it's been neat because we're getting really close to like go live, which is, it's just been, a long 4 years of work to get to the point where we're actually capable of doing this. So, and I'm really proud of the team and the people, and it's been a week of gratitude for me for all of the good in my life that I've been blessed with. That's how I feel right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Little the hard work.
The
Go.
other thing I'm going to venture to say, even though I probably shouldn't, because this is going to sound absurd until I prove it, but using some of the methods in Law Zero, I was able to, figure out a new way to do quantum computing better that nobody's figured out yet.
That's
So,
that's definitely big.
I've got a paper that I've written on it that's it's cool because I was able to do it with. So they let me give you some context. They announced this week that they'd figured out this algorithm that could prove in hardware quantum advantage, which is the advantage that you get from using a quantum computer over a regular computer in terms of time on task and energy expense, right? Something that would compute this thing a traditional way would have taken something like infinite amounts of years and all the energy in the sun, and this thing can do what would normally have taken forever inside of I think like 13,000 exponent. Like the exponent is 13,000 times more efficient than a regular. Like you can actually solve the problem, right? It's called a wave or a quantum echo experiment. It's not a super useful algorithm by itself, but it does show that they can do quantum advantage compute on hardware and proves that it actually does quantum computing rather than just like being a figment of people's imaginations. But
yeah.
If you've been paying attention to all the work that we've been doing around Law Zero, then you would recognize immediately that one of the insights that falls out of it is that the universe doesn't have an external clock, right? It kind of backstops the invariant loop quantum gravity idea that time is in the mind. And that's baked in to the sort of subtext of Law Zero, but it's definitely in there. And when you apply it to this, you go, okay, so what are they doing wrong? As it turns out, quantum computers spend most of their time error correcting for the fact that they sync to a universal clock. Right? They hook the quantum computer to a traditional computer and then gate it to the computer's internal tick, which ticks down the seconds, probably in GMT or UMT. And
Don't forget about nanoseconds.
the different quantum gates fall out of phase really fast because of this.
Yeah.
So I theorize that maybe there's a way to do this with relational time, such that the different clusters of qubits don't trigger on, a structured algorithm that says, fire when the time hits the next available time slot after this in the cycle or whatever. That's what screws up the qubit. So apparently there is a way to do this. And if you set them side by side in Qtip, which is a little Python extension that lets you do emulation of quantum operations, and just, build up a quick demo of this sort of echo behavior, which now we know can work to get supremacy, right, or get advantage. And you set them side by side and you watch the coherence decay. The one that has relational clocks starts to perform something like 400% better and rising as soon as you hit 6 or 7 qubits. And the numbers get more dramatic from there. It's an exponential uptrend in terms of right now. Basically, if you add qubits to a quantum computer, it gets less stable, and this changes it so that you add more, it gets more stable.
And that's what you call staring down a basilisk with the iron of the bastard sword and slaying it like the dragon that it is. So, And speaking of that, we have a video, don't we, Andrew? I think we can dissect it and go into just exactly what Greg was talking about on a different standard, different perspective.
We're
gonna relate it,
do a little time traveling ourselves, right?
Oh yeah,
go ahead,
let's do it.
Let's jump into it, man.
You get videos today, everybody.
It's 1386 in the French town of Falaise. A crowd gathers in the public square. The executioner stands ready on the scaffold, but the condemned criminal being led to the gallows isn't human. It's a pig, and not just any pig. This sow has been dressed in a human waistcoat complete with white gloves on her hooves and a human mask tied to her snout. She's about to be hanged for murder. And here's the part that'll mess with your head. This wasn't some barbaric mob justice. This was the law. The pig had a lawyer, she got a full trial, witnesses testified, the judge deliberated, and after careful legal consideration, the court sentenced her to death by hanging. If you lived in medieval Europe, this scene wouldn't even be the strangest thing you'd witness that week. Because medieval law wasn't just harsh, it was downright bizarre. We're talking about a legal system where your shoes could be illegal if they were 2 inches too long, where playing football was a criminal offence punishable by imprisonment, where rats could be summoned to court and officially excommunicated by the church. See, we think of medieval times as lawless and chaotic, but the opposite was true.
So I just had to point this out. If you go back to the football reference, they are in fact holding a pig skin, quite literally. Pretty funny.
Yeah,
yes.
I've already watched the video. They mentioned that in the episode. So
who makes
later
this?
on?
This is good. This is good stuff.
This is a YouTube channel that I've been following for a little while called The Forgotten. We actually did an episode on it a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a little more, a couple of weeks ago. But I sent you one of their videos on X if you want to check it out.
More like a couple months ago.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Yeah,
I'm always looking for something new to just mainline into the old brain. So thanks for this one. This is a good one.
Well, that puts it into perspective, though. Just how laws are very subjective in the bearing of reality. So, why do you think that is, Greg? What does this have any? What does the law have anything to do with the concept of a basilisk? Because I mean, they're about to hang a pig. For murder.
You guys are all familiar with the Cobra effect as an idea, but for people who are watching this for the first time that don't know what that is, there's this apocryphal story of colonial India that nobody even can verify if true, but it doesn't terribly matter because the example's great and it's happened again and again and again in a lot of verifiable cases that are nearly identical, right? So the idea of a Cobra effect is that you intervene in a system that's complex rather than and a complex system is not a chaotic system, right? You can get chaotic behavior out of a complex system because it's a multi-body system, but what you're dealing with is actually complexity, which is interdependent order, not absolute disorder. So there's a big difference between complexity and chaos, right? So anytime you make any kind of intervention into a complex system, we learn from Mises what the whole thing remaps, and we learn from the cyberneticists that the more complex the system, the more amplified the reaction, and the more intense the intervention, or the more intellectually deep it is, right? Because the smarter the attempt, even if it's not a perfect attempt, which it has to be in order for it to work, right? You can create off-target effects. Now, what the Basilisk effect does is it shows you this in totem, like the whole. If you look at one law and see what it does, right, you're not going to be able to see the meso and macro scale of the fractal. You're not going to know exactly where this weird effect crosses with another weird effect from another law, creating a third weird effect that is not understood by the regulators to be emergent from either, right? So if this effect is problematic enough to draw the ire of someone who wants to make more laws, right, then they'll see it as a new problem to solve. Or if they don't, they'll see it as an effect that we might be able to eliminate by doubling down on existing policy, right? So,
yeah, it's
and
causing a
because we're dealing
distortion
with,
in reality.
right, and because
I
we're
do.
dealing with complexity, that means we're dealing with non-linearity. So amplifying a thing, like if you turn the volume up on your stereo, it seems to get louder linearly, but it's actually going up. Like every decibel you go up is essentially one exponent, right? So if you're at 1 decibel and you go to 2 decibels, you haven't gone from 1 to 2. You've gone from n to the 1 to n to the 2 in terms of the effect, right? So you're turning up the volume in a seemingly linear way, but it's really going up like logarithmic. So what that effect like the more complex the system, because that's just one factor, right? If you get a really complex system and you start cranking on it at varying levels of intensity, you're not going to get same effort in, same effort out. You might hit a punching bag and it swings back really hard, but if you hit this thing like it's a punching bag, right? Depending on how hard your punch goes, the bag might swing off the hinge or might not move, and the harder punch might be the thing that makes it not move, right? Like non-linearity is unmappable in its complexity once you get to the level of like a society as complex as the United States at the federal legislation level, right? And you can see a macrocosm of that in the past, right? Like this, when because the Basilisk effect is that sort of effort to unravel what look like actual problems but are actually side effects of previous Cobra effects. So that's what the difference between the Basilisk and the Cobra is. The Basilisk or the Cobra embarrasses the central planner, and the Basilisk justifies their existence. Yeah, so it's sort of how they make lemonade out of lemons when they inevitably screw up by intervening in a complex system they don't fully understand.
Right.
And I'm guessing that what we're seeing here is what it would look like at a more dramatic scale than we have today in the United States. Our laws are absurd, but they haven't devolved to measuring shoe sizes quite yet. Right?
We're getting there.
We can't guarantee we won't. And the thing about this time period, right? Communications technology was weak. Methods and practices of governance were feudal, if not, constitutional monarchy before the king was fully disempowered, right? Like there's a phase you can go through in all of Europe where you look at the way that they had to address the problem of managing a huge population. And
that's why nationalism.
My point is, it wasn't a simpler time. It was a more complex time to be a governor.
Oh yeah, well that's why it's so much easier to for the rise of patriotism, nationalism, more state-instructed institutions. Why the Protestant Reformation was a big part of this pattern of transference, because as we get into the 14th century, you have the Black Death, the plague takes over, takes out almost a third of the population of Europe, and from there you have less population, a little bit easier to control, try to consolidate, put people in line so that you can kind of stamp down something in reality for your unknowns. So so you start seeing that structure of nationalism. That's inevitably why by the end of the 14th century you have the start of the 100 Years' War, that militarism that statism ends up leading you to.
Right. Well, I mean, and then there's this other interesting side aspect of Basilisk effect, where the more the thing is likely to fail at doing what you want the policy to do, the more dramatically performative it has to be. Right. These laws are likely performing the law for the sake of demonstrating it exists in an epistemic theater type way. Right. Like, they're not trying to show you public order. They're not trying to execute the purpose of the laws as written. They're trying to execute the purpose of the body of law as written, which is to protect the institutions of governance. Right. It is a self-preservative act to performatively solve a problem you cannot solve. And the Basilisk effect kicks in when you either don't know you're doing it, or it's gone so far that you recognize that this is a great way to clamp down on people, and that you're feeding the machine on purpose. Like, there are people who serve this exact effect for its pacifying effect on the masses, and then there are people, and they glorify it, right? They'll say it's technocracy. They'll say it's managerialism. They'll say it's expertise leading. But in reality, what they know for a fact is that these experts aren't going to solve the damn problem. So the more likely it is they're going to fail, the more hard they lean on expert, right? This is a similar phenomenon to back then, but back then they weren't dealing with the other problem, right? Which is republic cum democracy that is balancing far too far towards democracy for its own good. So that would be my take. That's my guess. Now, I haven't seen this whole video yet, so I don't know. My opinion might change, but I think we should go on.
Yeah, okay. Let's get back into it real quick.
Medieval Europe was drowning in laws. Every kingdom, every duchy, every tiny village had its own legal codes. And when you combine religious paranoia, class warfare, and a complete misunderstanding of how the world worked, you get some of the most insane legislation ever written. Today, I'm taking you through the 10 most bizarre medieval laws that actually existed, and I need to be clear about something up front. These aren't myths or exaggerations. Every single law I'm about to show you appears in actual medieval legal documents. Court records, royal decrees, church edicts. The paper trail is all there. The sow executed in Falaise. We have the receipt for what they paid the executioner. 21 sous, about 3 times what a labourer made in a month, for executing a pig.
Oh, let's just watch. Let's watch this. I'm just kidding.
Animal trials and executions.
That was cool, though.
Let's start with those animal trials, because nothing captures medieval legal insanity quite like watching grown adults put a rooster on trial for witchcraft. Between the 12th and 16th centuries, European courts tried at least 85 animals that we know of, and those are just the ones with surviving records. The real number was probably in the hundreds. Pigs were the most common defendants. They had this nasty habit of wandering into houses and attacking children. But the courts didn't stop there. In 1474, a rooster in Basel was tried and burned at the stake. His crime, laying an egg. See, medieval people believed that rooster eggs could hatch basilisks, those mythical serpents that could kill you with a glance. So when this rooster supposedly laid an egg, it wasn't just unnatural, it was demonic. But here's where it gets properly mental. These weren't kangaroo courts. The animals got full legal representation. In 1457, a sow and her 6 piglets were tried for murdering a 5-year-old boy in Burgundy. The court appointed a lawyer named Bartholomew Chasseneuil to defend them. This wasn't some joke appointment either. Chasseneuil was one of France's most respected jurists. He later became president of the Parliament of Provence, and Chasseneuil took the case seriously. When the piglets were charged as accomplices, he argued there was no evidence they'd participated in the killing. Just being present didn't make them guilty. The court agreed. The mother pig was hanged, but the piglets were acquitted due to their youth and the lack of direct evidence against them. Think about that for a second. A medieval French court actually debated the legal culpability of baby pigs. They considered whether the piglets had criminal intent, whether peer pressure from their mother influenced them. These were the kinds of legal questions keeping medieval lawyers up at night. The trials followed proper judicial procedure too. In 1519, some field mice in Stelvio, Italy, were charged with damaging crops. The court sent them a summons. When the mice failed to appear,
Okay, we gotta
shocking, I
pause.
know,
We gotta
their
Pause,
lawyer argued
pause
they
it
couldn't
real
attend
quick.
because cats made the journey too
When I
dangerous.
go like this, Andrew, pay attention.
Okay,
So,
first off,
what-
I have to applaud seeking this out because it has a basilisk associated basilisk
Yes.
effect driving a law, which is
Yeah.
just the kind of recursion that I find so amusing, right? Like, wow.
Well, yeah,
That's
and
amazing.
it was.
Because-
I mean, the interesting aspect is how do you get from pigs are present, pigs committed murder.
Well, I don't think they were ever getting there, is the thing, right? Like, in all
Mhm.
likelihood, what we were watching is courts and lawyers needing
Being
to
courts
fill
and lawyers.
space in order to basically, if you don't use power, you lose power, right?
Yes.
They were putting
It's-
on a show of trying these animals as a deterrent, probably. That was probably
Most
how they
likely.
justified it. They probably sat there and thought about how they needed to stage the show way more than they thought about how much how much the law actually mattered, right? Like a new law student who was bright-eyed and idealistic coming out of law school at that time would probably go into the practice and be dismayed that they were trying these cases for the purpose of demonstrating the power of the court as opposed to doing something useful that helps the world, right? I
Right.
think if I have to look back at the time when I practiced law and why I left, it was a very similar reason. The law was performative. It wasn't doing what it was supposed to, right? And I went to
Well,
law
man.
school with those ideals, thinking like I was going to walk out of that place and then go start helping do justice. And in reality, what happens is you end up being part of the show, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
complicity. That's why I left.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna go ahead and guess that this kind of show was low cost because nobody really gave a shit, right? You could probably also use it punitively by going after certain people's livestock very selectively. So, like if there was
Yep.
a dissident in town who was given the church or the king or the landed gentry trouble, or a burger, if this
Most
was in the
likely
middle
the
of
gentry,
the
yeah.
Renaissance, right?
Stand the
Then
burgers.
then they could take their animals and try them for something stupid, right? Like imagine puppy side, but they actually just come and get your dog, right? Because they want to make a point about how powerful they are over you to the public, right?
Mhm.
It would be a way to shut up dissidents and a way to protect the system. But they would be performing this justice. So like all the documents, of course, would be perfectly in line with as if they were treating this seriously.
Mm.
But in reality, it was just probably puppet theater of power.
And
I wouldn't
all
be
the
surprised.
peasants believed it because it was their
I'm
bread. Yeah,
I'm
and
sure
it was
that
their
they
bread and
probably.
circus.
This is another interesting thing about Basilisk effect is it makes the
Yeah.
authorities lose their ability to detect whether or not their policies are causing the problem or fixing the problem. Right. So so you could probably see some situation where like taking people's animals causes people to get more disgruntled and
Agitated.
causes some people to be paranoid about losing their animals. And in the side effect of that, they may have created a kind of rebellion against it. But I'm guessing that the reason they did it was to stop exactly that kind of rebellion by demonstrating power even when nobody was committing crime.
Yeah.
So, so I'm guessing they didn't try these cases if there was a human to try. These just came in
Right.
the margins when they didn't have anything else to do.
Real quick, guys, if
Agreed.
this video is too fast for us, fast for you guys, let us know. We'll slow it down a little bit. So, but I just want to throw that out there in case anybody thought it was too fast.
Good call.
All right.
Engage.
All right.
Judge accepted this argument and gave the mice safe passage. But the absolute peak of this insanity happened with insect trials. Weevils, locusts, caterpillars, all hauled before ecclesiastical courts. In 1478,
Okay, pause again,
the Bishop
pause
of
again.
Lausanne formally charged some beetles with destruction of property.
I'm surprised here that they
Ecclesial.
they didn't invent the class action for bugs, right?
Right.
Like we're just going to condemn the entire species to death, and now they must be executed every time we see them. Would have been a great little piece of power theater, right?
They would have went bankrupt. Oh wait,
Plus you could see like someone
Well, that's probably
basically doing a PR campaign to be elevated into a position of power. Like, oh, you know what I'm gonna do when I get into power?
Oh,
Those
classic.
bed bugs you're complaining about, population, we're gonna put them on trial.
I mean, classic Machiavelli. I mean, this is before then, but classic Machiavellianism. So,
Okay, I just had to say the class action thing, so I thought that was funny.
it's all right. Here we go.
The Beatles were appointed defense counsel, who argued his clients were simply following their nature as given by God. The prosecution countered that the Beatles were instruments of the devil. After lengthy theological debate, the court issued a compromise. The Beatles would be allocated their own plot of land outside town where they could live unmolested. If they stayed there,
you're fired.
fine. If they returned to the crops, they'd be excommunicated.
That was actually kind of cool of a game.
Beetles. The church actually had a whole procedure for this. They'd read the excommunication order aloud in the fields, commanding the insects to leave within 3 days or face eternal damnation. Sometimes they'd ring church bells to make sure the bugs heard the message. And here's the truly wild part. People thought it worked. Medieval chronicles are full of accounts where insect infestation supposedly ended after formal excommunication. Of course, what probably happened was the bugs just moved on naturally after eating everything, but correlation...
What probably happened actually is they pretended that it was working because the authorities were there ready to punish anybody for talking crap on the justice system.
Right.
Right. It would defend its integrity if you didn't perform it. Like, the worse the policy and the more ineffective, the more important it is, if you're in power, to make people pretend take it seriously. Right. Look back at COVID. Right.
Yeah.
They could not tolerate unseriousness about it. That was the one thing that they would not put up with, is like, anybody who seemed to be scoffing at it. That was their main target, right? Because to scoff at it is to make it clear what's going on. This is scoff worthy. I'm scoffing at this and nothing is happening to me that's allegedly going to happen that's bad, right? Anybody who scoffed at this would have been foolish to do so, right, at that time, because they probably would have immediately been hanged for sedition or something. But
yeah, we're not in China where they do any of the boom references.
Right, and we can't even know the motives, because they probably didn't even know their motives. They were probably unable to tell whether or not they were doing anything good or just performing. So it starts to turn into a sort of this ennui of learned helplessness, where you just play along with these systems even though you know they're absurd. So these people may have been pretending that it worked.
Right. Well,
especially if it's written record is keeping track, right? Like, if written records say they thought it worked, then they were probably making sure that the Lords thought that they thought it worked, or at least that the Lords saw them putting on a performance of thinking it worked. Really.
Or in human psychology, history has its proof. I mean, give somebody an element of authority in some capacity, and they will use it, and give the rest of the people the idea that they need to be ruled over, and somebody has to give them the permission within that authority, and they will bow down to that authority.
Yeah. Interestingly enough,
what a basilisk.
There's some backing for that in American jurisprudence that follows from English laws like this, right? Like, 'cause there were a lot of stupid laws that actually became precedent here. And the way that we handled it in the United States early on, right, was to be efficient and awesome, because that's what we were back then, right? Like, we were badasses. All these people colonized this continent. You want to talk about jurisprudence that was sharp? Go look up a case where someone tries to do something stupid like sue Satan for corrupting the morals of society. That would have gotten you a court case that probably made headlines in the old world, right? If what we're watching.
Yeah.
But if you do that in the United States, you go back and look at this specific case where the Supreme Court took this case and said very specifically, we do not deal in things that we have no jurisdiction over, including the supernatural, the divine, and the mystical. Even if you won, what could this court do to bind the devil?
And that in itself ends up creating, as our state apparatus has expanded beyond 1860, that type of case nowadays would probably be taken. It
Yeah.
would probably be taken serious just
Well, I
because
mean,
the basilisk is expanding.
yeah. Well, and one of the biggest lies of that era, right, too, was the divine right of kings. You know,
Mhm.
so if you claim to be ruling by dint of divinity, by the divine authority, then of course you have jurisdiction over the birds and the beasts of the air. It says so in the that's what the court will then take and interpret absurdly here, which was useful to
Listen,
them, but probably not literally taken seriously. So
listen. There's not a divine right of kings. There's not even a government, people. There is only one king. All right, and he's not of this world.
That's right.
yep. and and moreover, he intended that the only proper king of you is you.
Hmm.
And no, I mean it's not. I mean not over God, right? Not over Christ, but like the point of it was always that you're responsible for your own self.
Yeah.
And what you do
Yeah.
morally and ethically, what wrongs and rights you commit in life are yours and yours alone.
That's where when I read Paul's epistles, I believe to the Romans he well almost everybody, but Romans this week I've been reading Romans as the epistle, Romans 6:5 and 6, and one thing that I liked that he considers is we are fallen into two sides. So one can be a slave towards sin, the other can be a slave towards God or a slave towards righteousness.
Yeah.
Those are your two choices. Which do you fall in? Do you go beyond yourself and correct your moral absolutism and live for something more objective and truthful, as in, say, helping benefit humanity and create and innovate in the love of God's creation and his creatures, live with God? Or are you going to be a slave for sin, which is someone who separates himself as an outcast and just lives for yourself and sort of like this and thinks that you have all this power and authority over yourself, so you should be able to, I mean, lunge over that power with authority over others, and in turn you're going to just cannibalize yourself.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You know, will you self worship? Will you pretend to believe, or will you commit yourself to proving that you believe through your works? Right. Like what you do is what matters. It's not what you pretend to believe you should do.
Hmm.
And that was the problem with the divine right of kings. Right. There was no way that the uh, the divine entity that they claimed authority from was giving it to them. No
Yeah.
way, right? None. There's just no chance. These were not people that lived uh, in any way that would suggest they were, de facto by blood saints or something like that, right? Um,
Yeah, they were taken from Deuteronomy and the passage of how
right.
if there is to be a king, how the process of which the king is anointed in
Yeah.
bestowance of God, and in reality they weren't anointed to anything. It was just a system of the day, and these were for the most part generation of up upon generation of warring factions of dynasties that
Yeah.
inevitably converted to Christianity and used it to their advantage, and it just
Right.
the cycle just continued on this trek of pure governance within their own kingdom, and so
Right.
you end up you found certain balance, but yet you also collapsed in on yourself, trying
Well,
to contain one facet over another.
well, I feel like though a lot of that render unto Caesar aspect of early Catholicism probably had to do some of that performatively, right? Like to a degree, those are some of the passages that provoke my skepticism about the modern literalist translation of render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, because it sounds to me more like a capitulation in this day and age to a kind of power that is completely unaccountable but back then it would have been more of a negotiation between the church as it was emerging and the the governing forces that were at the time secular for all intents and purposes. That their divine right to power was literally just the enforcement of laws with force or will with force arbitrarily, right?
That
Yeah,
that balancing,
it's
it sounds like the thing Molyneux's been talked about in the past. It's
yeah.
ethics are objective and morality is subjective. You push and pull to try to make progress.
It's amazing that you brought up render unto Caesar what is Caesar's and what is God's, because I believe that the church, for what it is within Catholicism, has evolved to toward the teaching that it should be taken as a metaphorical idea, because Jesus in his own right was really just not falling for the trap. If he
Right.
says if he says give the Caesar, then he's a Roman sympathizer, a Roman agent. But if he says
Right.
don't give the Caesar, don't give them the tax, then he's a rebel, and they got him. The
Right.
Pharisee
So he was
has him.
so we can read. So I think we can read if we look at it this way, that whole line of verse, that whole part of the canon, the parts of it that are designed to cohere with making sure that that Christianity preaches non-threateningness to power as it was emerging, right? That if we look at it in the context of that time, then that belief, where it diverges from the actual teachings of Christ, is one you should discard, right?
Well, that's
anytime
what Paul
it defies
taught.
the golden rule, to you should not expect any mercy for just going along with what the government says, no matter what they're doing, right? Like, I'm going to go ahead and guess that there were probably a lot of World War II era Nazis that went straight to hell without a chance, right? It didn't matter they were following orders.
Well, that's and that's what Paul effectively teaches as well, as in his ministry work, as he was forging minds and changing hearts, uplifting them to Christ, is a righteous kingdom is of God. But if you're not bestowed to the authority of God, then how do you have any authority? And I think that's where we've flipped in today's day and age. We've become so secular to a certain extent. And I'm all for the absence of church with state, but we've gone a little too much to the extreme of the absence of church and state, that we've effectively ended up creating the church of the state.
Yeah,
So
no, the state saw it, especially in the United States, right? I think this is one of the things that if you, even if you're not a Curtis Yarvin fan, you have to admit that he gets right. Is that that essentially what we're up to is the conversion of the original Puritanism into a secularist version of itself that worships state power in proxy for God power. Right?
So what we needed to do was, instead of the Puritans going after the witches should have been going after the Puritans.
Probably. Well, if there were indeed witches, right? The interesting thing about that is it would be very convenient to pretend there were in fact witches if you were power, and you didn't like that snotty woman who lives with that guy across the street you can't stand, right? You're in power, you want to punish an enemy. You're in power, you want to punish an enemy? Well, you can pretend to take religion super seriously in the witchcraft domain and start persecuting women. By the time you've knocked down 3 or 4 completely unrelated to your grudge as witches, no one will suspect when you go after the one you have a grudge against.
Listen,
right?
The Catholics had their inquisitions, but the persecutions were pretty bad. Probably worse so under the Protestant sects. Just because they implemented the state, because they had no other authority. At least the Catholics had Rome,
well,
that they could hide behind.
the Catholics also, like, you have to give the Catholics credit here, right? Because even where they were cruel, they were not infinitely cruel. Every
Yeah.
single person who was tortured in the Inquisition was genuinely granted absolution if they confessed, and
If they
were
confess, yeah.
if they were believed to be genuine, right? Now, oftentimes that meant the difference between getting tortured to death and getting a quick death. But at the same time, like, if you actually believe, which, you know, people did back then, almost a lot more ubiquitous than today, that's a bit of mercy, isn't it? The Protestants don't do that. There's no confession. They don't have absolution. The absolution happened once upon a time, and maybe you were included, but you find out when you die, right? Like, that sets up a kind of cruelty in this
That's
type of
it
system.
does.
Yeah, because
And then
there's no redemption based on your acts, so people are free from being contrite about their own feelings of guilt when they go at everybody else, right? And then, of course, add into the fact that these are absurd laws, and that the more absurd they are, the more you have to perform them, right? The more aggressively you have to
and
perform
God
them.
love them. God
So
love
the
a
worst.
lot of these Protestants, but many of these sects and denominations, not all of them, but many of them take from the Calvinist point of view. And John Calvin was a lawyer,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
take that with what you have. So
Yeah.
a lawyer
and
interpreting scripture, probably not a
like,
good thing.
well, but
Damn
it's so
legalists.
bound up. It is so bound up, though. Like,
Yes.
even in law school, like, they don't pretend to not tell you the history of where you come from as a profession, right? Once upon a time, you were somebody's champion in a gladiatorial duel, and the divine law said that if you won, God was on your side. You weren't lying. You were telling the truth, or you were in the right. You know. That itself, being performed as hard as it was, probably was a tacit tell that these people knew they weren't doing God's work. You know, it was just a show for the masses to keep order. And that's not to say that that's all that that religion and state ever do together, right? Is do that, but the Catholic ones don't do that nearly as frequently as the ultra Protestant one we got now.
Listen, man, they were blue pill before it was cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All I gotta say is at least for the most part, the state is out of the church with the Catholics. I will give the Protestants a good thing on that one. Eventually, the Catholic Church evolved to a certain extent.
It did,
and then probably evolved a little too much into modernity as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it lost a lot of its ability to say things with any seriousness, and have them be about serious things and have them have any force, right? Like, you don't fear the word of the current pope the same way you would have, like, Urban II.
Oh yeah,
You know, like, you go back far enough, and that guy was the one picking the emperors.
Yep.
So, so in a very real way, the two sort of helped each other back then. Now, that said, you know, like, I think if you look at the sort of the Machiavellian era, right, you can see the church kind of redeem itself a bit, but not for the sake of the people, for the sake of its own self-preservation.
Everything gets scared at some point.
Yeah.
Or the preservation of the men that are within the church and the magisterium.
Yeah.
So the church will all be Christ's bride, but the men that are within the church, well, they're just men. So so
right. But the interesting thing about the I think that's interesting about absolution. It was an anti-basilisk effect device. It was a pressure release valve for that kind of amplification of cruelty beyond all means, right? They may torture you to death, but they won't deny you your salvation if you suffer it and confess. That is not something our current system will do. It will just take your admission as sign of weakness and just attack harder.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But yet you're innocent till you're proven guilty. But that's not how the legal system works in reality. You're guilty unless they say you're innocent.
I feel like with privacy, we've dispensed, or with loss of privacy, really, we've dispensed with the notion that they have any presumption of innocence at all, right?
Yeah.
If it is conceived of as a genuinely good thing in all circumstances in power to be transparent, especially about like, your fine. They love the idea of no privacy on chain, right? The fact that they want you to have no privacy is in and of itself a tell about what they want legibility to look like. They want all of your life to be rulable. And so that was something that I think also makes this regime especially brutal compared to this. But let's see some more absurd laws. This is getting
All right.
heavy. Let's have some funny stuff.
Became causation in the medieval mind. The total ban on football. Now, you might think medieval sports would be encouraged, keeping the peasants entertained and all that, but medieval football was nothing like what we know today. Imagine 500 drunk men from 2 rival villages meeting in a field with a vague goal of getting a ball to the other village by any means necessary. No rules, no referee, no limit on players, just pure chaos. The ball itself was usually an inflated pig's bladder. The goals could be 3 miles apart, and the game could last from dawn to dusk. Players would punch, kick, stab, and occasionally murder each other. It was less sport, more organised riot. In 1314, King Edward II had enough. He issued this decree. For as much as there is great noise in the city caused by hustling over large balls from which many evils might arise which
That's
God
what
forbid,
we call
we
hooliganism.
command and forbid on behalf of the king, on pain of imprisonment, such game to be used in the city in the future. Pain of imprisonment for playing football, and Edward wasn't alone. By 1365, King Edward III banned football along with handball, hockey, coursing and cockfighting. Not because he cared about public safety, mind you. He was worried about archery practice. See, England's military might depend on longbowmen. It took years to develop the strength and skill to use a warbow effectively. But instead of practicing archery...
Yeah.
That sounds like a polished post hoc justification, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I was worried about national defense. Where we heard that one before?
I don't know. That's a new one to me.
The problem with it is, like, let's follow the logic. He cares about national defense. Good so far, right? Yeah, that's good. Archery is a sport. So the king says, I can predicate this, whatever it is I decide to do, to address something that I'm just pissed about, on the notion. And since I have this predicate, the real reasoning can be lost to history. And the real reasoning can just be like these dirty hooligans, right? Kicking this stupid ball around. I can't target them if I can't see the ball, though, right? Because it could just be people running around. I can't criminalize the act of hooliganism. I can't say, if you're going to play ball, do so within the constraints of public order. We're going to enforce the laws we have against killing and maiming and vandalism and, public disorder. No. We're going to make a law specifically targeting the ball, right? It sounds a lot like hitting the most legible layer in the machine-readable architecture today, doesn't it?
Mm.
Like they don't go after the activity that's bad about the activity. They go after the activity itself, and they do it in a way that they can instrumentalize very easily, because it's very easy to train your troops to, round up anybody adjacent to a ball and throw them in the stockade, right?
All it needs is a visceral emotional reaction.
It also sets up a nice pretext, right? Because if you keep a ball in your back pocket as one of the king's men, you can get rid of anybody you don't like.
Yeah. It's definitely convenient.
Yep.
We get back into it, guys?
Now,
All right.
one more point worth noting. I think they should make soccer like that again. That sounds like a better game. I think that's more fun.
Let's just piss off the
yeah, it's
European
called
people already.
it's actually they have that. It's called rugby.
No, I mean like the 3 mile idea. Like literally, like the ball has to go from my town to a goal in your town or whatever.
That's fun. That would be fun.
That would be
Actually,
so
there
awesome.
was
That would be fun.
there was an episode of
I thought you meant the hooliganism.
about talking about something like that. I'll send it to you later, Greg.
Okay.
All right,
Cool.
Here we go.
On Sundays, young men were playing football, so Edward made it law. Sundays were for archery practice only. Get caught playing football, that's a fine. Keep doing it. Prison. The Scots went even further. In 1424, James I of Scotland's Parliament decreed, "It is statute, and the king forbiddeth that no man play at the football under the pain of 50 shillings. 50 shillings was about 2 months' wages for a labourer. France had its own version called La Soule, equally violent, equally banned. Philip V outlawed it in 1319. Philip VI rebanned it in 1331. Charles V banned it again in 1369. The fact they kept having to ban it tells you how well that worked. But here's my favourite part. We have court records of the actual football arrests. In 1481, 6 men in Halifax were prosecuted for playing football on Sunday. In 1572, a man named Gilbert Dawson was imprisoned in Manchester for organising a football match. Actual criminals, because they kicked a pig's bladder around a field. The bands created this whole underground football culture. People would organise secret games in remote fields. Lookouts would watch for sheriff's men. If you got caught, everyone would scatter into the woods. Some clever villagers found loopholes. The law banned football within city limits. Fine. They'd play
Something
just
tells
outside the
me.
boundary.
Pause
The
that.
law specified Sundays. They'd play on Saturday night and claim it was still the Sabbath Eve.
See, that's what happens when you try to prohibit things. You're just going to create a counter mechanism. That's what counter economics is. It works with counter cultures, counter societies. So they try to ban the ball. They try to ban a sport. What happens? You end up you make an underground society out of it. It's like in this country in the 19th century, early 20th, bare knuckle boxing or fighting was getting very popular. And so most states, many localities, eventually the states, they got together and they banned it. So it ended up becoming a very popular underground occurrence, boxing. Inevitably, the bare knuckle boxing that was in the underground circuit and was illegal would end up becoming one of the most profound popular sports in most of the early to mid 20th century.
Right.
Call
Everybody was
boxing,
having a bully
so-
day back then. Right?
Exactly. So, I mean, no different from prohibition with alcohol as well, or with drugs.
Hey, you
Yeah,
stole my
well,
line.
The interesting thing about all this is like this is exactly what the Basilisk effect would predict, right? Like you don't get in a system made of minds, you don't get the ability to make rules and know that the rules are going to be affecting them the exact same way as any other given example of them. They're not homogenous and they're not atomized. They're people, they're minds. You don't know how they're going to react when you do this. This is like, it adds a compounding non-linearity to it as soon as you start regulating what people can do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they should have become aware very quickly that this kind of law was just going to foment more of the behavior that they were trying to get rid of. And that would be like a basilisk-aware government. If a king realized this and kept realizing it, you can probably guess that king was the Sun King.
Right. I guess I'll get back into it, guys.
Yeah.
Like and
It's like,
subscribe, everybody.
You know, the Sun King's arbitrary exercises of power were always just very direct, one-step things. He took what he wanted. He didn't create weird structures to claim that it was just. He just took it.
I mean,
It's
hey,
actually from a Basilisk effect standpoint, that's actually better.
right. At least you know everything's on the table.
Right, and there's no pre-knowledge of what might happen to you because of the king, so there's no way to anticipate it. So you can't pre-plan for what the government might do. And that's really what causes the Basilisk effect to emerge from Cobra effects, is that people start anticipating what might happen if they bend the rules.
Some people like to make a joke out of it, and well, that just escalates things further.
Oh yeah,
They do it for the
everybody
lulz.
reacts differently, so it's
Oh,
chaos.
like,
It's
Go to
like
prison
pig-
for a
just like
Hillary
the-
Clinton meme.
It's just like the wild pigs.
Something like
right?
that.
You start hunting wild pigs to eradicate them, they just scatter.
Shit. Here we go.
The Great Pointy Shoe Crisis.
Enter the Spedience Gym Monster, an all-in-one home gym solution that aims to
Medieval fashion police weren't metaphorical. They were real, they had legal authority, and they measured your shoes. By the 14th century, European nobility had developed an obsession with pointy shoes called poulaines. And when I say pointy, I mean the tips could extend 2 feet beyond your actual foot. Some were so long they had to be tied to your knees with chains to walk. Others were stuffed with moss and bent upward like elf shoes. The longer your shoe tips, the higher your status. By the 1380s, princes were wearing points so long they needed page boys to carry the tips when they walked upstairs. The church absolutely hated them. Priests thundered from pulpits that poulaines were Satan's footwear. Why? Because you couldn't kneel properly to pray with 2-foot-long shoe tips. Plus, they thought the extended tips were, let's say, anatomically suggestive. But the real problem was medical. In 2021, archaeologists studying medieval skeletons from Cambridge found that bunions increased by 2,700% during the poulaine craze. People were literally deforming their feet for fashion. The long shoes changed how people walked, causing them to lean back and mince along in tiny steps. Falls and injuries skyrocketed. Then came the breaking point. According to contemporary chronicles, so many knights at the Battle of Nicopolis in 1396 had to cut the tips off their shoes to run away that it contributed to the Christian defeat by the Ottomans. Imagine losing a crusade because your shoes were too pointy to retreat properly. By 1463, King Edward IV had seen enough. He passed one of history's most specific laws. No knight under the rank of lord, esquire, gentleman or other person shall wear any shoes or boots having pikes or points which exceed the length of 2 inches. 2 inches. The King of England literally set a legal maximum toe length. But Edward wasn't done. The law went into incredible detail. Lords and hire could wear points as long as they wanted. Merchants worth over £500, maximum 6 inches. Gentlemen, maximum 4 inches. Commoners, maximum 2 inches. Servants and peasants, no points at all. The Cordwainers Guild, the shoemakers, were made enforcers. Make shoes longer than allowed for someone's social class? That's a fine. Repeat offence? Lose your license to make shoes? We have records of the shoe police in action. In London, official.
This is a compounding Basilisk effect in action right here. This is the meat of it, right? They aren't coming after the pointy shoe issue directly anymore. They're going to do collateral infrastructure attacks. They went to a trusted third party, and if they had blockchains back then, dissident cypherpunk shoemakers who wanted to make pointy ass shoes no matter how long, right, would have been doing it anonymously.
QR codes.
Yeah, they would have been doing it anonymously, getting paid in Xano, right? Like, and you would have probably bought your pointy shoes on, ironically enough, the Silk Road. You know, like it literally would have been, yeah, exactly like today.
But with memes. The shoes would have been the memes.
Right. And the shoemakers would have been social media firms.
Right.
But all of this is a second level effect, right? This is already a reaction to a reaction, right? That the pointy shoe legislation wasn't enough. They had to take an extra step. No pun intended.
Yeah. Did you see the salty posts on X?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Would literally measure shoes in the street. In 1465, a merchant named Thomas Trivett was fined 20 shillings for wearing 14-inch points when his wealth only qualified him for 6 inches. The law spawned a black market in illegal shoes. Nobles would secretly commission extra-long poulaines from underground cobblers. There were shoe speakeasies.
See, we've created a monster, Andrew.
Okay,
go on, Greg.
Check this out. You've got a meso effect emerging. This is an example of the fractalization of it, right? Because you've got two laws crashing into each other now, right? Wealth. How do they monitor that? How do they know? That means they're surveilling your bank account, right? So now in order to enforce the law, they need to know everybody's wealth. Interesting power grab.
And how do you do that in these times?
Right. All because of pointy shoes. This is why we need KYC AML.
Yep. That's how they did it. I mean, the way that you dress. Yeah, it was an ancient social credit system judging people by how they dress, and how you dress is based on your reputation, and based on that reputation of how you dress is how much wealth that you had and how much success that you are doing in this life. So if you have pointy shoes, obviously the way that they're made, they're high value, probably made of like silk or some sort of special leather. So you got money, that's how we got you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and rulers making these laws weren't responding to non-harms, were they?
No.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The military was losing because of pointy shoes, quite visibly. Or at least that's what the hyped up propaganda was highlighting. There may have been benefits to pointy shoes elided from history, right? Because there was no printing press. So the only things that got written down were the people that were taught to write and given access to the tools to do so, and then given the task of doing so, because you weren't taking the time off of turnips to go writing, you know, like their scribes were doing the writing, and those scribes were very specifically designed to be under the thumb, right? They weren't putting anything down in ink that they didn't want preserved for history. So there probably was a sort of like an MSM like effect where, you know, it's 1986 and there are 3 broadcast networks, and now they're freaking out because people can get cable or whatever, right? This was like total
Just
information control.
What do you mean there are shoe speakeasies?
Yeah. And all the writing was for other nobles, right? So the other rulers were reading the writing. People weren't taught to read.
Yeah.
So
that was pretty rare.
So all of the written down stuff was targeted at the oligarchy part of the government, right? This is probably the king's management of them taking place.
I'd push back on there. I don't think it wasn't that people weren't taught to read. It's that people just didn't have the time to sit down and actually learn to truly read.
Right. Well, I don't think that was the design of the
Yeah.
thing. I think the point of the writing was always to communicate with other people who could read, which kind of right away meant the gentry.
Oh,
right? They just,
of course.
They weren't doing these writings with the audience of the masses in mind.
Yeah.
So we can think about that as we think about this, because
And
I'm guessing that he's going to get to the end of this and start to question why the hell this was happening, right? Why were things so weird? And the answer is probably the same as it is today when crazy stuff happens. Rulers doing the best they can with the information they have at the time, given what they believe is right and good and knowable.
The term scaling.
The term is abolish the Department of Education.
Right. Well, I mean, the answer is power is what it does. And we can't change its nature. So we shouldn't have power that we don't want abused the way power inevitably is. And
the One Ring
is, that's the problem. Is you can have the best intentions though when you do it, and just not realize that you're setting yourself up for, Basilisk
Apple of Eden.
Yeah.
That's what the ring was. The ring was the apple.
So as we watch this, see if the next series of laws he goes into, I'm just going to guess, maybe they carry this chain further. Maybe the shoe law goes further, creating even weirder effects when it crashes into the fact that there's now money surveillance law associated with shoe law.
It doesn't have a timeline that I see.
No, let's just go.
Yeah, it's not. Okay.
This is really useful. This is one of the most powerful teaching tools for Basilisk effects I've seen. This is a good choice, Andrew.
Thank you.
Speakeasies where fashionable young men would gather to show off their illegal footwear. Some try to game the system. The law said 2 inches beyond the foot. They'd claim they had enormous feet. Others argued the law meant 2 inches from the toe, not the whole foot.
Propaganda.
Allowing for longer points if you curled them up. Trial by combat. Medieval trial by combat was already insane. The idea that God would ensure the innocent party won in a fight to the death. But the Holy Roman Empire took this concept and made it weirder. Official judicial duels between husbands and wives. Obviously, a physical fight between a man and woman wasn't fair, so medieval German law came up with a solution that's somehow more bizarre than the problem. The man had to stand in a pit dug up to his waist. One arm was tied behind his back. He got a wooden club about 3 feet long. The woman stayed above ground, free to move, armed with a sling containing a rock weighing between 1 and 5 pounds. I need you to picture this. A medieval German court has dug a hole in the ground. A man is standing in it, waist deep, one arm tied back holding a stick. His wife is circling him with a weighted sling. Court officials are watching. A notary is taking notes. This is happening under the full authority of law. The combat rules were specific. If the man touched the edge of the pit, he lost. If the woman was pulled into the pit, she lost. The fight continued until one surrendered or couldn't continue, and the penalties for losing weren't equal. According to the 1276 Augsburg Law Code, if the woman lost, she was buried alive. If the man lost, he was hanged. The logic. A man who couldn't defeat a woman, even with the pit handicap, had shamed his gender so badly he deserved execution. We have illustrated fighting manuals showing the techniques. Hans Talhoffer's 1467 Fechtbuch shows detailed positions, how the woman should swing the sling to avoid the man's club, how the man should try to grab the sling to pull her in. These were actual combat techniques that people studied. The trials usually involved serious marital disputes, accusations of adultery, poisoning attempts, or violence. Regular divorce didn't exist, so sometimes attempted murder was literally easier than separation. One documented case from 1228
Okay,
in
pause it.
Switzerland ended with the woman winning. She knocked her husband
Yes.
unconscious with a weighted sling.
Anti-divorce law made this basilisk effect happen. Let's keep going.
All right, all right.
Then strangled him with the cloth while he was down. The court declared her innocent of whatever she'd been accused of because God had clearly favoured her in combat. But here's the really dark part. We don't know if most of these combats actually happened or if they were just threatened. The existence of the law might have been enough to force settlements. Take this to trial by
Right.
combat? Well, one of us dies, so maybe we should work this out. The sanctuary
Yeah, pause
loophole.
that. That's actually a good point.
Medieval sanctuary law created one of
So you have to imagine, right, that this was mostly a way to say we don't want family law cases.
Yeah, I can
Yeah,
see
like,
that.
don't come to us, because if you do, one of you's dead. So unless you want like a divorce that's that kind of permanent, and you think you can win, right? I personally wouldn't want to be the guy,
No.
because like just having to try to pull her into the pit while she's got like a thing that can probably take your head off, right?
Yeah.
And all the momentum, like if she gets a good round swing on that thing, right, that's the end of the ball game, man. You're toast.
I mean, she gets pulled down and she gets buried alive. So I guess it's a kind of an equal trade there.
You guys remember that kid's toy from the 90s called a Skip It?
Yeah.
That
No,
device
but
just
I've heard of
kinda
Bop It.
reminds me of a Skip It. It's the same makers of Bop It, right? Like,
Yeah.
Oh,
you put
yeah.
on your ankle and,
Bop
and
It.
it would.
But yeah, oh, I know what you're talking about. I prefer Bop It.
yeah, Bop It was like the boy
Extreme.
toy, and the
Yeah.
girl toy was the Skip It.
Skip It. Well, I mean,
People
you
back
did have
then were-
Skip It.
Bop
Bop
it,
it.
spank it, slap it,
Kill your
snort it,
parents.
shoot it.
Whoa. People back then were bonkers. Perhaps they are descendants of several politicians in D.C. today. Maybe, Dave.
That was a
I would
meme,
argue
by
could be
the
the
way. I
case.
These
didn't
people
really.
were at least
I didn't-
more forgivable for being as benighted as they were about the
Mhm.
world.
I mean,
modern politicians have fewer excuses.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, for some strange reason, I'm thinking that Donald Trump is actually a descendant of excrement.
Really?
I don't even think. I think he's just a descendant of shit.
I wonder.
That's what
Because
the smells
Because
here.
his, yeah, I
Could
mean,
be
he
true.
does smell like his
He gives
administration
off
does
Bono
smell
vibes.
like
That's
shit.
true. He gives off Bono vibes.
Bono. And Barack Obama
How many
gave
critics
out
do you think he weighs?
he gave out the Maria Antoinette vibes. Let them eat
Yeah.
cake.
Yeah,
I think this
the
following-
whole thing's just a mess.
This kind of one of the things Zach's going to get a kick out of. So
Well, and
Let's
and
go.
this is something that I think Law Zero is meant to also convey. Like, as much fun as it is to get angry at politicians, right?
What's the point?
we can't really fix it that way.
Yeah.
You know, like it won't be productive, because the only way that we can really fix this is to understand what we're doing and stop, right?
right.
That's like the old meme on social media, cyberbully the politicians, but half of them are not seeing what you're cyberbullying them with. So the best way is to divorce and build. Divorce and build. Try to build coalitions. Try to get out there with your community, meet your neighbors, meet those within your community. Try to expand from there and try to actually actively build something that can benefit humanity, whether it's technology, whether it's policy, or whatever. I mean, but do something that's actively there to help your community, rather than get angry and jump on the internet and cyberbully a bunch of politicians. They don't care. They're going to still do what they're going to do.
Not that I really
It's
think
fun.
that there are any real people doing that for real, right? Like I feel like this is more like a thing that if you're going to be a cyberbully, like if I was going to be a cyberbully, I wouldn't like sit down and like, you know,
I'm looking at you.
Pop a bottle of wine open and you know, compose my mean tweets. You know, like I would probably automate the crap out of that. Right?
Oh,
I'm guessing that a lot of what we're seeing there is like,
It's probably automated.
oh, it's probably
Although,
automated.
although,
Or it could be like somebody in, China, Russia, Iran, Iraq, any one of the nations
Mhm.
that we make enemies of by putting economic sanctions on, right? Like that
do
populace.
those politicians even bother to read critical posts on social media? Dave, I don't
So they
think
have-
I don't think any of them are actually reading. I think they have a publicist team, and
reading is
they're
a
just
staffer function.
yeah. So yeah, that's
You
a
gotta-
staffer,
you-
and maybe Thomas Massey might see some tweets every now and again. Actually, do some of his own personal tweets, but even he has a staff for that. He might be a little bit more localized, but for the most part, your average politician is just basically doing. They have their staff run their social media.
Right. The hottest interns they can hire that they're of the gender they're attracted to.
Which many of them
does
are
all the reading
gay.
during the day, and when they have to dodge gross advances at night, they give the update. Right. Like that's probably how it works.
Perhaps they don't hire attractive female of the attractive female persuasion. Perhaps they focus on fat and trashy because
Because then
it
there's less
doesn't get them
sympathy
in trouble
public.
with their wives.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's like here's a funny
Hey.
story. And I can't reveal any names here, and these people are nonetheless long deceased, so I'm not breaking any rules here. My dad was a doctor in a small town in the middle of nowhere. One time, a woman he was treating had a weird rash on her mouth, in the mouth area, and it didn't look like anything my dad had ever seen. So they sent it to the lab, and it came back sheep herpes.
What the fuck?
And her response, when she was informed, was, "Damn it, I told that man he had to stop fucking those sheep if I was gonna keep blowing him."
Oh my god.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yep.
So some guy was banging a sheep, and she was going down on a guy banging a sheep.
Yeah, it's her husband. And she was like, "Look, I don't care if you do that, but you gotta tell me so I don't go down on you."
Oh, that reminds me of going to Red Dead Redemption. The Easter egg you find at one of the farms. You walk into a little livestock trough, little stable trough, and you find some guy dead with his pants halfway down off his ankle and a dead pig.
Oh, gross.
Shout out to
gross.
Tony Hawk's American Wasteland. There was an episode, or there's a map in Florida where at a Bond strip club, you see a cop and
Perhaps I do agree with certain laws. Perhaps we should have anti-bestiality laws, and that's it. Everything else is immutable.
Sadly,
gotta see that coat.
Let's reason through this law proposal with Law Zero for a second, right? Should we outlaw bestiality, or do we risk, thanks to the Basilisk effect, creating more bestiality than there would have otherwise been by making the law?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, we have anti-CP laws in effect, but that doesn't stop CP from generating across, especially the internet.
In
So,
fact,
I mean,
right now,
can you stop
it probably protects the CIA from being the main producer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know? Like we literally have a law meant to protect children that is protecting government agencies using honeypots, so long as they use kids for the sex bait, right? If they used adults, then we could have access to the evidence, and there would be no law against us owning it, right? They could show us the whole file. But thanks to the way the law is, because of our child protection laws, right? We have pedophile protection capacity galore over there in the State Department.
We're basically, for the safety of the kids, I air quote that.
Yeah.
Safety, we're protecting pedophiles.
Yeah. Well, and we get into this in I think we get into this in the privacy chapter, if I recall correctly.
I believe so, yeah. You did touch base a little bit on this.
Yeah, because we talked about the great Jacob
Actually,
the great Jacob Applebaum and the Four Horsemen of the Infopocalypse, right?
Yep.
Anytime you talk about strong privacy, what does the government trot out? Terrorism, child molestation, fraud, or fraudsters, and tax evaders, or if not tax evaders, then these days hate speech, right?
Yeah.
The
Anti-Semitism. You
the
anti-Semites.
surveillance that they want to do is justified by these monsters that they trot out.
You
But they're not
racist.
doing that to stop it, right? They're not doing that to stop those things. What they're worried about is a loss of broad legibility, what they call going dark when you hear them talk about it in our government. And
Stop
their
promoting
main
violence
defense
with
is
your
the
speech,
fact-
Greg.
Well, the main defense of the act is, think about this, right? Like, how easy is it to get people outraged about something evil?
Mm-hmm. It's
Right?
pretty
Not
easy.
at all.
Because
it
this
doesn't
is,
take
this
a
is
whole
in no
lot.
way a defense of pedos, right? We want those people to not be hurting children, right? They're hurting us. They're hurting our species, and it's wrong to a point that it's morally disgusting. And this is not a condoning of that, but the fact that I have
Make
to
that
say
money,
that
Dave.
before I say the following, which is the way that we go about doing this child protection has replaced stopping it with stopping people from viewing evidence of it.
Mm-hmm.
And we channel our outrage into going after, kiddie porn downloaders, right? And we call that protecting kids. But in reality, all we're doing is elevating witnesses to a point of moral turpitude above that of the people who are actually doing the crime, who are actually hurting the kids.
Yeah.
And it satiates our moral outrage to go after these people in a way that stops us from being motivated to make our government go after the real problem, which is the fact that this is happening in the first place, to be documented.
Well,
The people doing that are, in terms of disgusting, on another level compared to the people just watching it, who are still fucking disgusting, but should not be our primary focus. Because images wouldn't exist
the reason
if we
the
went
reason
after the people actually doing
they
it.
shift the narrative like that, because it's probably because as long as we are pissed off at those who view this shit, which is disgusting and appalling, we
Right.
will hopefully ignore the simple fact that it's most likely our own government that's producing it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also
So-
probably a lot of, because you want to talk about an easy way to toss a little baggie of weed in somebody's trunk in the digital age, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
As soon as you load a thing onto a computer,
It's on
that's in
there.
the memory. And if you load
Yeah.
that stuff in and then delete it, erasing a lot of the metadata about it, including when it was loaded, stuff like that, you can digital forensics your way into blaming anybody for whatever you want. I mean,
Yep.
it's gotten so bad now that a turf feud between two different sub communities on 4chan started weaponizing it, right? To where they would actually go get it from the pervert sites on the dark web, and then surreptitiously send it to people. Sometimes even with steganography, so that you get like a cat picture in your text messages, followed by a report to the cops. And when they checked the data, right, they would get the hash collision, and you would actually be able to, from the image, create a thing that detected itself like the image does, and then by deleting it, become indistinguishable from it, right? So you can basically all day long set people up if you're the FBI or the CIA or whatever, and make them go away. Any problem person. I mean, in fact, if we ever were dissident enough to piss them off enough, I'll bet you all three of us would be on TV. Child pornography was found when we arrested them. Right?
Yep.
That's how that shit works. The thing has become a
That's how they
utility
take
of
you down.
government. The thing has become a utility of government, right? And it's advantageous to them for the child abuse to continue.
It's back to these ages. I mean, it was easier to dispose of certain leaders, especially in the gentry class, certain leaders, rulers, through means of just assassination, discreetly or overtly, but nowadays we don't need to do that because we live in a digital age. And so, yeah, I mean, the government could literally take care of dissidents through just putting you in prison for CP. I mean, and you didn't
Right.
even have it. They're just basically going off of, they've sent a signature of the metadata to your drive. So when someone calls on you, they check the forensics. It looks like it was deleted, but it's there. And then you go down because the data was on
Or
what
even
they're
known
doing.
that they snuck in the day before, loaded it on, and deleted it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that
Backdoors.
opens up yet another utility for perpetuating this thing. So they have more reason to double down on that law, right?
Yeah.
Increase
The
the
reason why
penalties or
Roman
whatever.
Storm is going to prison in a couple months.
Yeah,
Because he wouldn't.
absolutely.
Yeah, he wouldn't allow for a backdoor. And you really can't with his system, but he wouldn't allow for a backdoor for the government to get in. So now he's going to prison for 8 years.
Well, I mean, I think he's going to win his appeal, personally. There's some major First Amendment issues that need to be addressed.
I'm hoping. Yeah. Well, initially, what it looks
even
like,
the
he's
DOJ
probably
tried to
he's
walk
looking
back
at
the
8.
policy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, he might actually end up getting sentenced to less just because of that. But he's looking at the potential of 8 years.
Right. Now, the cool thing about Roman, shout out, buddy, if you're watching, is he's a principled man, right? He doesn't want this to go away without an appeal anymore. Like, he's basically, when he walked out of that courtroom, he had steel in his eyes. He's going for the throat with this. He wants to be the person who sets the precedent. He's precedent. He's going to be the next. Who's the guy who won the PGP case? The creator of PGP. Why can I not think of his name?
Do you?
I don't know. I had to Google it.
Let me look it up. Let's see.
Yeah.
PGP creator.
Phil Zimmerman.
Phil Zimmerman. Yeah. Phil Zimmerman was the guy who figured out that he could totally derail the state's case by writing the code base for PGP into a book and shipping it overseas.
That's smart.
Because you can't get caught for arms export controls and held accountable if the thing that they're claiming are armaments are in fact printed pages in a book, right? And the point was the code is meaningful to humans. So it's speech, right? And it's kind of obvious that it's meaningful to humans. How else could developers do any work at all if they could make no heads or tails of the language?
Right.
Yeah. And programmers express jokes in it, right? There are whole joke programming languages. Have you guys ever heard of a programming language called Brainfuck?
No. I have, actually.
It is a very, very, very compact language. Because it essentially calls machine code directly using very, very sparse symbols, right? So you can write a program that would normally be like 200 or 300 lines in this base of 2 lines or so, right? If you do it right. It's just really, really, really hard to think through the programming because it's like an opaque,
so narrow
insulation, an opaque condensation layer, compression layer on top of machine code. Like, it's slightly harder than machine code level of high level programming language. The world's dumbest invention, but it was invented mostly to make jokes between programmers, right? So how can you look at code and not go, that's speech?
Right.
So you can't get into a conspiracy merely for talking. How can they claim conspiracy? The only act he did was publish speech. Right.
Makes sense.
But like, getting off that hobby horse, so you can see exactly how the best of intentions could get us here. And that's the scary part about all of this, is like, I don't doubt that the people who passed the laws against possession of child pornography, or CSAM, or whatever you're supposed to call it now. I think we should just call it child porn. I don't want to sanitize it for them. CSAM just sounds too sterile. It's like calling them maps instead of pedos. I'm not doing it. But setting that aside, like, you can see why somebody would make that law, right? They would go in with fire and fury and be right morally, They just weren't thinking about the knock-on effects, the secondaries. They couldn't map ahead and go like, well, if we do this and then the government gets into honeypots based on kids, then we won't be able to share the evidence.
Right.
Nobody thought it through, looking for second and third order effects. Essentially, it's a form of negligence, irresponsible legislation, midwittery,
Long-term
stopping cause
consequences.
one and pretending like nothing else knocks on when you do something.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter that this law is causing this. What matters is the arrest numbers.
Those numbers
Because
up.
the arrest numbers is how you get the funding.
Right? It's also how your career
Re-election.
And that too. That too.
Yep. So that's the trouble, right? Like, in order to get over the Basilisk effect, in order to win this fight against what I think might be actually a great filter for humanity if we don't, we have to learn to analyze any rules we make for all of their knock-on effects. And if we get to a point where we can't tap that, where we can't actually understand the whole thing from end to end, soup to nuts, what it's going to do, and then set it up in a way that we can roll it back in case we miss something,
Mm-hmm.
any laws that don't do that are almost guaranteed to be causing these effects. And even laws that we do that with are likely to occasionally cause said effects. But right now we're just blind to them because we don't let ourselves think beyond step one when there's an entire network of behavior that gets readjusted every time you perturb the network of human minds living under law in this country. And the worst part of it is you can have the best of intentions, and it still
intentions
does what
don't
it
do
does.
crap.
It doesn't.
So
It
it's going
really
to be a
doesn't.
consequence.
So, and that's really the lesson of Law Zero. Is it's about having humility before our emotions when it comes to the rules we make for our civilization.
Mm-hmm.
We have to adopt a certain kind of, we have to emulate, I think, Christ when we make laws. Right? We have to think about it in terms of human impact in the cases where it doesn't solve the problem. You wouldn't see, for instance, Jesus join in stoning somebody, right?
Yeah.
Stop this madness. This is cruel.
Mm-hmm.
We have to see the cruelty of not paying attention to second and third order effects and recognize that if we want to have a good society, we have to be smart about how we avoid this effect, because otherwise it's going to turn our best intentions to ash.
Yep. I hear you, man.
So,
Are we ready?
yeah.
Engage.
Here we go.
History's most absurd legal loopholes. If you committed any crime, murder, theft, treason, anything, and managed to reach a church, you were untouchable. The king's men literally couldn't arrest you on holy ground. This wasn't some informal tradition. This was written law. In England, once you claimed sanctuary, you had 40 days of total immunity. The sheriff could surround the
Safety
church, but he
doorknob
couldn't
game?
come in.
That's
You
fun.
were fed by the church, you slept by the altar, you were legally speaking temporarily above the law. Westminster Abbey and Durham Cathedral even had special sanctuary knockers. Grab the knocker, you're under protection. We still have these knockers today. Massive bronze rings shaped like monsters' heads.
No way.
The message was clear. Once you grab this, you're in God's jurisdiction, not the king's. But here's where it gets absurd. After your 40 days, you had two choices: surrender for trial, or abjure the realm, confess your crime, and go into permanent exile. If you chose exile, you'd walk to the nearest port barefoot, carrying a wooden cross, wearing only a rough tunic. Anyone could rob or beat you on the journey, but killing you was murder. Miss your ship? Execution. Come back to England? Execution. The system was ripe for abuse. In 1378, Robert Hawley murdered someone, claimed sanctuary at Westminster, then kept sneaking out at night to commit more crimes, running back to the church before dawn. He did this for weeks until soldiers finally dragged him out and killed him on the altar steps, which caused such scandal that the soldiers themselves had to claim sanctuary elsewhere. Political refugees really exploited this. During the Wars of the Roses, entire noble families would live in sanctuary for years. Elizabeth Woodville, Queen of England, gave birth to the future King Edward V while in sanctuary at Westminster. Imagine, the heir to throne, born in legal limbo because his mother was technically a
pause.
fugitive. Some criminals became sanctuary professionals.
Did you leave base and come back to base? Let's find out.
All right.
Like, did they extend the sanctuary for years by having to like step off of it? Was it like,
No.
if you were Julian Assange, you were screwed because they were waiting outside watching?
That would be. I think
That
that'd be
would
a. that'd be a pretty difficult time.
All right. I always try to, when I look at these after framing things law zero wise, I always try to look at these things like how could this stuff happen with the best of intentions? And there's
Yeah.
always a way.
No,
So-
let's just play it plot twisted. Let's do it with the worst of intentions. Maybe that'll come up with good intentions.
Who knows? I feel like Murphy's law may be in effect here. Like you can't wash a car to make it
Right.
rain. You know.
Yeah. It's rain and piss. Here we go.
John of Beverley claimed sanctuary 17 times between 1460 and 1478, each time for different murders. He'd kill someone, run to church, abjure the realm, sneak back into England, kill again, claim sanctuary again. The courts were legally powerless to stop this cycle. Churches near prisons became refugee headquarters. Newgate Prison in London was so close to St Sepulchre's Church that escaped prisoners could reach sanctuary in under 30 seconds. The church eventually had to post guards to turn away minor criminals because they were overwhelmed. By the late medieval period, certain churches had permanent sanctuary rights with no time limit. Durham Cathedral had dozens of permanent fugitives living in a special sanctuary dormitory. They had their own economy, their own hierarchy. Murderers and thieves just living in a cathedral, legally.
Is this really so bad?
This is what the world's most advanced PC.
I mean,
Like they're kind of self-imprisoning.
I don't see a problem with that.
They're
I mean,
self-reporting.
The one guy who like kept doing it over and over again, that was a policing failure. That was not a policy failure, right?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing they addressed it with policy changes instead of trying to address it by correcting the quality of their policing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's such a long time ago. To make a decision, it takes a long time for them to actually update the next decision, and it just doesn't scale like it should. So
Yeah, no, that's true. It learns at the speed.
Looks
of
like.
sorry.
Get
The
an
size
ad
of
blocker.
bread, the baker's dozen law. In 1266, England passed a law that specified down to the ounce exactly how much a loaf of bread should weigh, based on current wheat prices, not approximately, exactly. With mathematical formulas, the size of bread and ale included tables like this. When a quarter of wheat is sold for 12 pence, then a farthing white loaf shall weigh 5 pounds and 16 shillings. Pages and pages of
tax
precise
law.
calculations.
Tax
If wheat
law.
costs X, bread must weigh Y. Every town had to appoint official bread weighers. These were real government positions. Your job was to go around with scales weighing loaves. Find one that's an ounce short, the baker gets fined.
Effectively,
Second
everybody.
offence, the pillory. Third offence, banishment from the trade.
Pause it
The
real
pillory
quick.
punishment was specifically designed for bakers. You'd be locked in the stocks with your underweight loaf.
This type of law right here effectively just proves why taxation is usury.
Right. They literally had people loafing around literally on
Yeah.
government dime. You literally had bureaucrats. Sorry, I couldn't help myself but make the loafing around.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's also ironic because the Lord is the giver of bread, and it seems like they're more interested in prescribing
Taking it.
bureaucratic details about it so they can take it.
Mm.
Yes, and non-conformings could be confiscated at will, and they were selectively enforced.
Mm. I think they were the bureaucracy were secret Calvinists.
Yep.
Engage, Andrew.
All right.
Hooves tied around your neck, or worse, dragged through town on a hurdle, a wooden sledge, with the bad bread hanging off you while people threw rotten vegetables. This law created such paranoia among bakers that they invented the baker's dozen, giving 13 items when someone ordered 12. Not as customer service, but as legal protection. Better to give away free bread than risk your calculations being slightly off and facing the pillory. We have court records of these prosecutions. In 1310, London baker John Brid was pilloried for selling underweight bread. In 1327, John de Stratford was banished from baking for life after his third offence. Actual career-ending legal consequences for loaves that were a few ounces light. The law spawned an entire surveillance bureaucracy. The ale conners who tasted beer for quality, the bread weighers with their scales, the flour inspectors who checked for sawdust or chalk. Medieval England had more food inspectors per capita than the modern FDA. Some bakers tried creative compliance. The law specified weight. They'd make their bread so full of air it was technically the right weight, but mostly hollow. Others added sand or sawdust to hit the weight requirements, which led to more laws about bread purity. The Royal Forest death penalty. When William the Conqueror established England's royal forests in 1066, he wasn't creating nature preserves. He was claiming about 1/3 of England as his personal hunting ground, and the penalties for poaching were insane. Kill a deer in a royal forest. Under William, you'd have your eyes gouged.
This is
Eat,
great
Dave.
learning things. that were never shared in history class when I was in school. Yeah. I just want to read that for anybody that's just listening.
You know, next version of Law Zero is going to include examples across history.
All
Because
right.
I did
Sounds
modern
like-
examples.
Amen,
I feel like
brother.
there needs to be a sequel, like, or an annotated second edition that brings in like as much of the body of ridiculousness that we can find. Because I had no idea that medieval culture was being so eaten alive by the Basilisk effect.
I don't need a lawyer. I just need to
And
read your
and
court.
and at the same time, I think in my hopeful soon to come civil disobedience book pamphlet, there will be some historical references in that as well. So
Sweet.
shout outs to you, Mike.
Is this a new announcement, Zach? Have you been working on this already, or is this the first time we're all hearing of it?
It's in the plans.
That's awesome. I can't wait to read it.
So it's in the plans. Whenever we get the time.
Cool.
Are we ready?
Let's do it.
Out. By the time of Richard I, the punishment had evolved. Blind the poacher and cut off his testicles for killing one deer. But here's the insane part. Forest didn't mean what you think. Entire villages could be inside a forest. Your farm that you'd worked for generations could suddenly be forest land, and forest law superseded common law. Living in a forest meant bizarre restrictions. You couldn't cut branches for firewood without permission. Your dogs had to be lawed. 3 claws removed from each front paw so they couldn't chase deer. You couldn't carry a bow, even for protection. You couldn't let your pigs eat acorns during certain months. The deer needed them. You couldn't expand your house or clear new land. The forest had their own courts, their own officials, their own legal system. Forest wardens could enter your home without
Maritime
cause.
law? That's
Forest
weird.
courts could fine entire villages for one unknown poacher. The foresters were judge, jury, and sometimes executioner. Here's a real case from
Like the
1209.
ship's captain.
A man named William found a dead deer in Sherwood Forest. Not killed it, found it already dead. He took it home to feed his family. The forest court fined him £12, about 10 years' wages for a peasant. When he couldn't pay, they seized everything he owned and outlawed him. The system was so hated that it sparked constant rebellion. The legendary Robin Hood? He was basically fantasy fulfillment for people living under forest law. Every deer he
No
poached
way.
was a middle finger to the system. By 1217, the barons forced King John to sign the Charter of the Forest alongside Magna Carta. It's less famous, but arguably more important for common people. It rolled back
Okay, we
the
gotta
worst
pause.
forest law abuses, though it took centuries for
You
the
just
system to
pause?
fully die.
Yeah.
The Paris pig ban.
While this isn't the sort of silver lining we can drift towards, there is a silver lining in these effects, isn't there? Like the revisions and improvements on the hooliganism, right? The ball games got more nuanced and varied, right? So we got a little bit more creative variety. Basically, get creative variety out of this kind of pressure. This is not a reason to do it, right? Just like it's not a reason to go around breaking windows to boost the economy. It doesn't work like that. But the cool
It
thing
does
about
to John Maynard Keynes.
right, like
I mean,
we've got some great. We've
what's
now got
wrong
some
with
great
the
art out of this ridiculousness. That's
A
pretty cool.
broken window means somebody has to repair it.
True, but the resources they would be spending on that would not be spent on something reparative that was putting them back in a position they lost, rather than increasing their wealth.
Listen.
It's restore. Yeah, it's loss.
Listen,
It's just a sunk cost.
are you saying that we need more
Pardon French.
we need more creative window makers rather than safe light repair?
Right. Exactly.
All I have to say is there's a few broken windows in Iraq, and Israel has a oil pipeline now. So trade off.
I mean,
Trade-off.
that is true. That is true.
Well, and
Good
that's, all
job,
of this is
Israel.
trade-offs, right? There is no, and this is
Yeah.
really true. Actually, there's no intervention that doesn't create secondary effects, right? Third order effects. All you have to do is look at laws that we love, that are great, like don't kill, right? We love those because those keep public order and those keep us all safe, and they put people who would kill people without a thought away. Great laws. Nonetheless, they go into the prison system. Basilisk effects abound. It's just worth the trade.
Got to be smart. That's why I call it economics.
Yeah. So that's the other reason that the Basilisk effect isn't like an argument for ANCAPism, although that's one solution that works. You can still have laws.
Well, let's go ahead and finish this this video clip up.
Sorry.
Okay.
This is a great
No,
video,
no, you're good,
man.
Greg.
After Prince Philip's
It's
death by pig in
fascinating.
1131, Paris didn't just ban loose pigs, they turned pig control into an art form. The official executioner became the city's chief pig killer. See a pig in the street? The executioner could kill it on sight and keep the head as payment. This was considered a perk of the job. Between human executions, you got free bacon. But pigs were valuable. Poor families kept them as insurance policies, feed them scraps all year, eat them in winter. So Parisians got creative. They'd train their pigs to run home at the sound of specific whistles. They'd disguise pigs as dogs with costumes. Some painted their pigs with religious symbols, hoping superstitious executioners wouldn't kill a holy pig. The monks of St. Anthony got an exception. Their pigs could roam free if they wore bells. These Tantony pigs became a common sight, wandering Paris with bells jingling. Of course, everyone started putting bells on their illegal pigs and claiming they belonged to St. Anthony's. The monks had to start branding their pigs to prove ownership. The law created a black market in suburban pigs. People would keep pigs just outside city limits and smuggle the meat in. Pig laundering became a real crime, taking illegal urban pork and claiming it came from legal rural pigs.
These were two weirdly shaped
So I don't
or
think we
odd
have to
to
tell
make the
anybody about
cut
that
in a regular
as a
pack of
Basilisk effect
bacon,
anymore.
but
Everyone's like, are you guys starting to get an intuition for what is happening in the background here, Law Zero wise?
Yeah.
I am.
Like
Yeah.
like somebody besides me crack this one open.
Well, I mean, you go and try to an objective. I think you're thinking objectively, but it's too narrow of an objective view, and you're blindsided by the consequences in the long term pictures. And
Right,
a
so
long
you
term.
get a black
It's
market in
relative.
false pig brands, right?
Yeah.
Like or
Yeah.
a gray market in lookalike bells. As a response to this, right? And maybe that's great. Maybe in some cases we get something really important out of that, but probably not, right?
It's relativism. It's literally taking my truth against your truth, and I'm right, you're wrong, but then you say that you're right and I'm wrong, and everybody has their truth, and it's might meets right for the most part. Whoever has the muscle essentially behind their truth is going to make sure that their truth is right, and then inevitably everybody else is going to get sick of it, and they're going to either counter it, or you're going to have a revolt and things are going to change. But then we're still in that relativist idea of culture and ethics and society and how things should run, to the point where it's just one truth is recycled with another person's truth, and then inevitably you're just leading to a falsehood because nobody knows what truth is.
Yeah.
So we're cannibalizing each other.
See the Enneagram
Well, I mean, and
personality
we don't
from all the
have
details.
and we don't have the capacity to not know, right? That's the other thing, right? Like we don't have privacy of viewpoint anymore. Like we are either expected to have our public views and air them in public, or we're expected to stay quiet, right? But if you don't want to fight, then you don't have views. So to a certain degree, like we know what we're playing at when we set these situations up almost ubiquitously, and even in cases where like we're not intervening in a system that's going, like a going intervention that we are not intervening to stop once we see these, that is in and of itself a kind of intervention.
Going.
Well, let's go.
Impotence trials. In medieval France, if a wife accused her husband of impotence, the church court could order him to prove his virility, in public, with witnesses. These weren't quick examinations. First came the inspection. A panel of matrons and physicians would manually examine the man's genitals, checking for proper formation, appropriate size,
These
and
were the first
capability of erection.
pornos.
They'd write detailed reports with measurements. If the inspection was inconclusive, the court might order cohabitation trials. The couple would be locked in a room together for multiple nights, while court officials waited outside, listening for evidence of consummation. Some courts required the couple to attempt intercourse a specific number of times, usually 40 for religious significance. Still not convinced? Time for trial by Congress. The man had to successfully have intercourse with his wife while court-appointed witnesses watched. Usually matrons and
Now
church
we're getting
officials
into
sitting on the
live
bed,
action porn
observing and
right
taking
here.
notes. We have records of these trials. In 1426, a man named Jean Carré underwent trial by Congress in Paris. The court report describes, in excruciating
someone
detail,
was spanking
his failed
to it,
attempts over
too.
several hours while 7 witnesses observed. His marriage was annulled. The trials became public entertainment. By the 1500s, Parisian gossip sheets reported on famous impotence cases. Crowds would gather outside the courthouse for verdicts. It was reality TV, medieval style. Some men hired assistants, physicians who provide various potions and treatments before the trial. Others practiced with prostitutes, trying to build stamina for performance under pressure.
I have a real quick question. Did they have that thing where the TV's like in multiple colors and like scrambled so you can't see what's going on, or was it real live? That's all I gotta ask.
Oh, I'm sure.
But-
I'm sure it's real live, man.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure
if
it was
they
the
would,
former.
If they would disembowel people for entertainment, this is probably considered like a mild reprieve from gore.
Right, right.
Like I said, somebody was spanking to it. There's no denying it. Somebody was
Oh, wait,
committing
no, onanism was
fornication
still a
sins.
sin. Onanism was still a sin. The people probably had to stand there and like, I'm guessing they probably had other laws against public erections, you know, or public,
Oh,
public
yeah.
yakking it. So you probably, as one of those officials, had to have the problem you were trying the case for, right?
Mm.
Because otherwise, you were gonna probably get selected by another guy walking around enforcing the no public boners rule with a ruler.
That's
Just remember,
too hot for YouTube.
tighten your muscles. That'll help you hide that kind of thing. You not go to jail. Let's
This
go.
is weirdly. Does this
Fact that
weirdly seem
anyone
like
could perform-
publicly staged porn though? Like this is like an early form of it before film.
Yeah, it pretty much is. Let's not
okay.
pussyfoot it around. It's porn.
Yeah, this is what they did when it required a court of law to get around the fact that if you started an OnlyFans account, you'd probably just get stoned to death.
Cuck. We
Pretty
call
much.
that a Congress.
hmm
Yeah, it's like if the
man.
camera's
only-
on, it's not
you-
prostitution.
Yeah, exactly. You can only cuckolding and prostitution are fine so long as it's a live audience
Right. Official
according
proceeding.
to the law.
The
Official
judge has to
proceeding
bang
of
the gavel
consummation.
before it's legal, though.
Right.
I love it.
Order.
No order.
Let's
in
get to the
court.
consummation.
Yep.
Here
Can you
we go.
imagine too? Like, I'm the kind of guy who like I don't even like to have other people around me when I'm peeing in the bathroom. You know, like I'm not the kind of guy who can go to a baseball game and just like stand at the trough and just let it fly. It takes some mental
Right.
work, right? Like
I will wait.
um,
I will literally hold it and wait however long it takes to walk into the stall because I'm the same way. It's like I don't want to stand next to somebody looking at my dick.
right.
All right.
Well, and I wonder if at least at some point in this, there were people who were just not getting it up because they had stage fright. You know,
Yeah.
not everybody's an exhibitionist. But somebody who's like a hardcore exhibitionist would probably only be able to get it up during trial.
Hmm.
So
Probably.
this is a weird conversation. Let's move on.
Okay.
Perform under these conditions seems miraculous. Jus prime noctis, the myth that became law. Here's the wildest part of medieval law. Sometimes the laws that never existed had more impact than real ones. Jus prime noctis, the Lord's right of first night with virgin brides, almost certainly never existed as actual law. We have 0 medieval documents granting this right. No court records of it being exercised, no contemporary complaints about it, but people believed it existed, which made it real in practice. Some lords probably did rape peasant women and claim ancient privilege. Some peasants probably paid bribes to prevent supposed first night rights. The myth became so powerful that by the 1500s, some regions were formally abolishing this ancient custom that never existed.
Interesting. So
We make grip socks.
that's fascinating.
Socks with grips on the bottom so people don't fall.
We should
If you have
create
a profusion of
non-slips.
weird laws, then you can make up laws.
Right. Well, content versus context, right? I mean, if there's so much content that you can't manage, how are you supposed
Right,
to
so this
form
would be
context?
like
Just like
a-
that video we watched from Metal Gear Solid.
Right. Well, and this would be like an emergent macro phenomenon, right? Like if you look at
Yeah.
the meso effects of having all of these micro basilisk or micro cobra effects running loose, right? At the meso level, when you start having enough crashing, you probably get this emergent effect of also a basilisk effect property as people start making up bogus laws because there are so many, nobody knows that you're full of
I
shit.
can give a modern example of that. Remember COVID? Everyone had to wear a mask.
Yeah.
I've seen people in person say, "Oh, you can't take that off. That's against the law."
Actually,
I'm just saying.
Yep. No. That's too funny.
Yeah. Let's finish this up. We've got 2 minutes.
Legend grew from misunderstanding real medieval customs. Lords could charge fees for peasant marriages, murci. In some places, newlyweds couldn't consummate for 3 nights without the church's blessing, which cost money. Combine these fees with general feudal abuse, and you get the first night myth. But here's the fascinating part. the myth influenced real law. In 1486, Ferdinand II of Aragon formally abolished the evil custom in Catalonia. In 1520, Zurich abolished it. They were abolishing something that probably never existed, but the act of abolition made people believe it had been real. Looking at these 10 laws, you see medieval Europe's chaotic legal reality. Every kingdom, duchy, city and church had different laws. What was legal in London might be death penalty in Paris. What the church allowed, the king might forbid. What tradition demanded, economics made impossible. Medieval people navigated dozens of overlapping, contradicting legal systems. Royal law, church law, forest law, merchant law, manorial law, all claiming authority, all threatening punishment, none agreeing on anything. The real insanity wasn't any single weird law. It was trying to live when binding a rooster for witchcraft made perfect legal sense, but playing football could ruin your life. When your shoes could be criminal, but murdering someone was fine if you reached a church fast enough. These weren't primitive people lacking sophistication. They were drowning in too much law, too many authorities, too many competing worldviews crammed into a legal system that couldn't handle the contradictions. The medieval period ended not when people became more civilized, but when they finally admitted most of their laws were insane. The Reformation, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment. They were really just movements to throw out the accumulated legal madness of 1,000 years. Next time you complain about bureaucracy or legal complexity, remember, at least your pig can't be tried for murder, your shoes aren't regulated by royal decree, and if you play football on Sunday, the worst you'll face is a noise complaint, not the king's dungeon.
I'm not going to let this guy
Medieval
get
law
away with
wasn't
this.
just different from ours.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
just
pal.
remember.
You cannot
the
apologize
pig-
for modern times when it's
Oink,
probably
oink,
just
motherfucker.
identical.
when it's about the same, because I was about the thing about the pig is sure, my guy, but the pig can lead to almost civil war.
Yeah.
Think
And
Hatfields and
also-
McCoys.
Imagine how much worse the pig situation would have been if they had biometric cameras trained to identify pigs to owners lining the streets, and if they had such specific laws like, you lift your brick to your face while you're holding a wheel and pushing a gas pedal, and all of a sudden you're pulloverable and searchable, right? Like, we have worse absurdity in ours. It's just less visible because our system can metabolize more of it.
I can name one abuse of the system right off the top of my head. GeoHot, the guy that hacked iPhone originally, and he had hacked the PlayStation 3, right?
Mhm.
Just to say that, oh, it's unhackable. I did it, and
Right.
they use court shop
Like a software teardown.
They shopped the court system to try to find one that would best benefit them and file a lawsuit against them. He wasn't even near was it San Francisco? He was in New York.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
tried him in San Francisco because it was most advantageous to Sony. So, economics works both ways for the law, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And
Was he sued in federal court?
No, Sony used the courts in California against them. But there's still.
Well, I know that, but I think he may have been sued in federal court though, and it moved to the closest of the plaintiff. That might have been what happened.
When I was in law school, we always talked.
Although
about
I don't know,
Circuit.
I'm
we always talked about
moron.
like Ninth Circuit courts as the place where every defendant gets a mercy or gets just like a handout. Like, there's no unworthy defendants in the Ninth Circuit, or no unworthy plaintiffs rather. They'll let you sue for anything.
Yeah.
Leave a comment.
Right.
What do you think, everybody?
Yeah.
So and like and subscribe over on YouTube and Rumble. Follow us on Rumble.
Follow them. That's a good channel. I love it. I've seen every episode.
Follow Forgotten as well. It's a great piece of expertise.
Yeah.
He does a very, very good job researching.
Follow for next week too for this channel, because you guys are going to want to see what we do next week. So I've got a really good idea. One of the ways that I crafted Law Zero to be a new kind of tool is that, like, I'm offering it freely, and I'm not restricting it to like really hard to get information out of and use copy, right? Like, anybody who wants it can get the text file of the book. This just in plain text. And what I'd like to do next time is show people how to use that to their benefit when it comes to AI, right?
Cool.
Because you can take this text, drop it into an LLM, and interrogate this paradigm against all of everything within its training set. And while some of it will hallucinate, you still have to be the brain that decides what isn't, and check it and read it all. You can find out some really fascinating stuff by feeding this in as a primary frame into, just a regular chat or a chat GPT project, and really put Law Zero to use as an actual tool, not just a thought tool.
So join us next week.
I think we should do that
Tune
live.
in.
I think we should paste it in, show people what kind of things you can do with it.
That'd be sick.
I agree.
Cool.
But until next time, everybody.
Yeah.
It's time for the
Stay tuned.
wrestlers.
Hey.
Yep. Oh, and,
We'll see you guys
and check
later.
out Silver Linings next Wednesday.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Don't miss Silver Linings on Wednesday. We will be back. So Silver Linings Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern or so.
World Blockchain Roundtable
World-
Thursday.
At 11 a.m.
PM,
Eastern.
11 a.m.
Yep.
And then make sure you like and subscribe for more weekly
I did.
legacy. So
Like and
like it-
subscribe
like,
to each other too.
subscribe.
Like and subscribe
Yeah.
to each other too. Be
Yes.
each other's fans.
exactly. And share this to your friends and your family on the outside realm. Maybe if we can
We'll break
open
on
this
through
up,
to the other
get
side.
it. Yeah, break
Yeah.
on through to the other side right there. Get it
Yeah,
out.
if you want to
into
do
the
some,
open.
if you really want to do some missionary work for us, go get this into somebody's head that hasn't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm. So while you're at work, while you're at church, while you're at the supermarket,
Yep.
or the post
And-
office,
And we'll help
Andrew's
too.
favorite place.
If you're watching this show and you know somebody who would totally love to talk to us if we talk to them about it, but not just read a book and maybe be an audience member if they didn't want to just passive,
Yeah.
feel free to commit us to helping spread this, because we will.
I'm down with
And
that.
also tune in next week, because there might be a special Halloween edition with a surprise guest.
That'd be
Sounds
fun.
spooky.
I promised him.
Awesome.
He
Let's go
knows
see
who
those
he is.
wrestlers,
He's
guys.
watching.
I'll see you guys later, okay? Have a good one.
Peace be with you.
Peace, friends.
God
Love you
bless.
guys.
Bye.
Bitcoin, baby.
Hey, yeah, this is Bitcoin. I'm back. The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch. Flossing fast cars and rolling with my clique. The king of the rap shit, the real OG. Whack ass rappers got nothing on me. Bought another Lambo, 3 hoes inside it. 10 hoes in line, ready to ride it. It's Bitcoin, bitch. Keep the track bumping. Really on the plug. I got pies in the oven. 80 years old, and your baby mama fond of me. All she wanna do is smoke my broccoli. Private jets from Rome to Ibiza. Lisa, Jenny, Julie, and Maria. Every day I gotta give thanks. I got bitcoins in the bank. Bitcoin, baby. I'm back in this bitch.
Bitcoin, baby. Oh,
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Bitcoin, baby.
The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this bitch. Axe your grandmother. Verse 2, coming with the gin and the juice. Call me a drag, spit flame in the boot. I'm hot, like a thermos full of coffee. So hot, can't get the hose off me. It's true, I got the weed card and shit. I'm smoking like a motherfucking chimney, kid. Bitches love me, my shit's never whack. Tell these motherfuckers, Bitcoin's back.
Bitcoin, baby.
I'm a bad motherfucker.
Hot like hot coffee. Oh,
Axe your grandmother.
Surprise, motherfucker.
The king of the rap shit. I'm back in this bitch.
Get your hands in the air. Put your hands on the car. Put your 2 hands on the rock. Put your 2 hands on the rock.
Bitcoin, baby.